talking about Deshaun Watson, what's going to happen there, and there are a lot of different dramatic situations going forth in the NFL. I'm sure we'll be talking about Dak Prescott, what's going to happen with the Dallas Cowboys. I can't imagine anything's going to happen with Russell Wilson at all now that Carson Wentz has decided. A lot of the attention, I believe, is going to shift into how many different quarterbacks are going to go in the first round this year, because that will be a big part of where things go from here. And I think the team that probably has the biggest control over what the NFL draft situation is going to resemble is the Jets, because the Jets have to decide what to do with Sam Darnold, and then they have to decide whether or not to go into the draft and get their own quarterback as well. And all of that drama is going to play out without the usual NFL Combine, which typically would be happening usually this week. Usually it's the last week-ish of February as everybody gets together in Indianapolis and they allow all the different players to be there, all the coaches, lots of discussion about what moves are going to be made, what players are talented, what different decisions are going to be made. But that's not going to be going on. And one of the reasons it's not going to be going on is the fear of COVID, and that's pretty much the only reason. And I saw a study, and I was like, well, this is fantastic news, but it's yet another loss for the Corona Bros, because so many people out there, so many of them said, hey, you know what? There is no way that you're going to be able to play a NFL season with fans present or a college football season with fans present. And then the data came out and it wasn't even remotely close. And the numbers actually found, and this is a study, in college football and the NFL, there was no impact in terms of COVID spread from having NFL or college football games that took place. And what they did, and I'm reading from this study, it said that there was not an increase in COVID cases per 100,000 residents in the counties where NFL and NCAA games were held with in-person attendance. Our study, this is the study, you can go read it at Outkick.com, by the way. It's up, or you can go check and see this link if you scroll through my tweets at Clay Travis. Our study suggests that NFL and NCAA football games hosted with limited in-person attendance do not cause a significant increase in local COVID-19 cases. And it's a really deep, detailed study that I would encourage you to go check out, but it flies in the face of everything that the Corona Bros told you basically all season long. And it's not just that study either. It's also the case that the same weekend there was another big event that everybody told you was going to be a super spreader event. And I'm going to dive into this in a large detail at the top of hour 2, because I'm going to read some of the headlines that were all trying to terrify you about the Super Bowl. But it's now been 2 weeks since the Super Bowl was played in Tampa. And do you remember all of those reports out there about what was going on in the parties? They were saying, oh, my God, look at some of these people in Tampa. They're not wearing masks. Florida's a mad zone. There's going to be so many new cases that emerge from the Super Bowl. And it's now been over 2 weeks since the Super Bowl was played in Tampa, 15 days to be exact. And cases have actually continued to plummet in Florida, such that there is, I think, a strong argument to be made that there are going to be full stadiums much sooner than a lot of people anticipate. Let me just walk you through this. So my kids are out of school again for snow, but we're fortunate they've been in school all year since August, and there have been virtually no major health-related issues that have ensued with our local school districts associated with COVID. In other words, it's been safe for kids to be back in school there. You guys know who listened to this. I went to NFL games in limited crowds. I went to college football. I went to college basketball. I am not afraid of living my life. In fact, although we got snowed in for the whole week last week, I am getting on an airplane on Wednesday and flying down to Mexico for a short vacation, coming back shortly thereafter. I'll be out on Thursday and Friday. But it got me thinking. And Dub, you, I think, just got on an airplane too. And so I want to bring you up for this conversation also. How full was your flight? You were one of the few flights that was able to leave Nashville and land in Texas. Even though there were big storms in both places, you somehow thread the needle. So let's go first to the airport. How many flights actually got out of Nashville last week when you left town to go back to your hometown of San Antonio?
Well, I left on Wednesday, and I know that Monday and Tuesday there was pretty much nothing left at all. On Wednesday, I get through security. I look at the computer screen that has all the flights.
You sent me a picture, and almost everything was canceled.
Yeah, I would say there was less than 10 flights that left Nashville on Wednesday when I left, and my flight itself was delayed about 6.5 hours.
You were supposed to take off at what time?
I was supposed to take off at 11:10 and get back to San Antonio about 1:30. I didn't get back to San Antonio until about 7:30 or 8. So I was ready to throw in the towel.
You were sitting at the airport for like 6 hours.
Right, and I'm staring at the TV screen behind the front desk where they have the radar screen, and you can just see the second winter storm that was coming basically straight from Houston area, just in a straight line to Nashville.
It honestly got to Nashville about time you took off.
Oh, when I was taking off, there was snow coming down pretty heavily on the ground at the airport. So I was surprised.
You almost got stuck in the Nashville area, like just barely got out.
Yeah, the window was small, and we somehow made it through.
Okay, how full was your airplane flight?
It was entirely full. Not one seat was open.
What airline were you flying?
I was flying Southwest. And it makes sense, though, with all those flights being canceled the 2 previous days, a lot of rescheduling and reshuffling going on. So, but you imagine pretty much – I've been on a couple flights in the past couple months, and they've been all pretty much full.
Okay, so you've flown as well as I have. But my point on this is there's like whatever it is, 140 or 150 people crammed into close proximity on an airplane flight. And you're wearing your mask, but what do they bring you, like a can of water, I think, around on a Southwest flight or whatever it is, maybe like one little snack. You can pull down your mask and eat, whatever it is. My point is, were you flying? Did you know anybody else on your plane?
No.
So where were you? Were you aisle, window, or middle?
I was on a window seat.
All right, so you are in extremely close proximity with strangers on an enclosed airplane flying for multiple hours in the middle of the winter, in the middle of the COVID pandemic, right? Not to terrify you in retrospect for what you did, but you made that choice. You couldn't right now make the choice to go sit outdoors and watch a Major League Baseball game, also sitting potentially next to people you don't know. If you had to just think about it logically, which do you think would be safer? Going to a Major League Baseball game or flying on an airplane? Outdoor Major League Baseball game.
I think every person you would ask that question to would go with a baseball game.
Okay. So one of the now that we know that the data reflects there were no super spreader events surrounding NFL and college football games, according to that study I just shared with you. Isn't there a pretty clear sign that we could bump up the overall number of people allowed inside of stadiums from 25%, let's say, to 50% without having to create a massive issue inside of the stadium? And that even in a half-full stadium, if they continue to kind of segment where people could sit, don't you think it would be safer to be in a half-full outdoor Major League Baseball stadium than sitting in an enclosed tube of an airplane?
That would make sense to me, yeah. Absolutely.
And look, I'm not pretending that you and I are, germ experts. But my point is, airplanes are taking off all over this country. And they're no longer even leaving, as if like the middle seat being empty is going to change things. Like some airlines are still doing that. But you flew on a completely full flight. My flight to Mexico, they said, is going to be the middle seat's going to be taken on that as well. And so if all of those things are in play right now, doesn't it seem like if you were just being rational, that at a minimum, Major League Baseball stadiums outdoors, again, outdoors where we know that COVID spreads much less, doesn't it seem like a half-full Major League Baseball stadium would be safer than taking an airline flight?
It would.
And by the way, I'm not telling people I'm taking airline flights. I'm just saying the logic here, to me, doesn't add up, right? That it's safe to take airplane flights, but it's not safe to sit outdoors in stadiums. Like, it doesn't add up to me.
Well, and you've talked about it before last year at the Braves games. No one's allowed inside the stadium.
Oh, yeah, that was
But then
great.
Everyone's outside watching on the big screen, basically
Jumbotron,
right next to each other.
Yeah. And I can travel to and stay in the hotel next to the stadium. I can walk around and eat in any of the restaurants that are open in the Battery. Heck, we did an escape game where, they literally put you in a tiny room and you have to find your way out. My kids love to do those. And you're telling me that I can't go watch a baseball game? Like, I think it's past time. I honestly do. I understand that everybody's trying to be super safe and everything else, but I think it's time for a team to just come out and say, and for Major League Baseball to give teams this opportunity, hey, we're going to sell, we got a 40,000-seat stadium. We're going to sell 20,000 seats. If people don't want to come, they don't have to come. And every month, we're going to add 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 more seats until by July 4th, our entire stadium is full. Now, if we need to change our behavior over that time, we can adjust back down. But this feels like, to me, a no-brainer. And it just seems like it makes total sense.